And we are live. Welcome to the Digital Renegade podcast. I'm your host, Dashing Rogue, and I'm with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman.
Excuse me, do you know how long this will take?
Why?
Well, some of us had reservations for a late dinner at the Green Gourd.
Yes, I've dined at the Green Gourd. You're better off as hostages.
Rather well spoken for a primordial American.
Primordial
You're
American.
so
That's what I self-identify as a primordial American. That's like Cheddar Man is like a primordial British man. Frickin' A. I don't know. Welcome everyone. This is a great day because I'm slowly building up my confidence again. Believe it or not, Luke.
Oh.
Oh yeah, when I got fired from my last job, people like, why are you talking on it? That was like 6 months. Like, again, I was brought to my knees by incompetence from these people, the dark side fuckers. So one of the things I started to do is I started to, for the first time ever, I actually did a Yelp review, essentially. I never have done Yelp review in my life. I think I told you guys this. But apparently people on Indeed are calling them out now. And I wanted to share some of the shit that they've said, just to give an idea of what the fuck's going on here. So here's what it says: management is hit or miss. Everyone's for themselves. Not much training here. Jump into the fire and go. Read between the lines. Paid twice a month, not every 2 weeks. I actually didn't even notice that twice a month, not every 2 weeks. So that's I don't even recall that. So the pros.
Isn't twice a month 2 weeks?
I don't know. I mean,
that's just me.
Again, so pros: lots of extra fluff here, driving your own truck, and food and drinks provided. Cons: no matter what role you are in, you have to answer phones at all costs. Just healthcare, nothing else provided. Blah blah blah. Management is in it for themselves. High turnover due to being underpaid. Yeah. And seven said yes, and 1 said no. This was an IT administrator. This was like a recent. This was 2022. Another one, 2 stars out of fucking 5. Not very structured environment to advance, and they had no pros, all cons. But this shit really does like give me a sanity check, because I thought it was me. For the longest fucking time, I thought it was me who was the a-hole here. Here's another one that I love. Poor management. Workers were good, but the management was questionable. And again, this is what happens when you hire when the CEO hires the HR lady, who is also his wife. So he's fucking HR, quite literally. Management is questionable. We were suffering a lot from being understaffed due to the ridiculously high turnover, and management solutions was to do nothing. We had a steady stream of applicants, but a lot of them were turned down simply because we didn't want to pay them fairly. Because of this, all employers usually were very new, inexperienced, and had other problems and would be gone within a month. Thank you. Was this a good review? Yes. 1 says no, because these assholes are the type of people who would fucking Google their own how should you say it? They're the people who Google themselves constantly. So if I started talking about the ginger, the soulless Soviet ginger who managed to hang out with Dugan, which we're going to talk about, Walrus Man again. He's been doing some crazy shit again, because like I shared it with you before, right, Luke? I've shared before that one article. Here we go. Here's the article we're going to use. By the way, for those of you who want to know, the song that we were playing was not Paradise, Caravan Palace. Luke.
All right.
This is something we're gonna have to translate that shit, by the way, because it's in Russian, of course. Right. But going back to what I was reading, and this is how I know these are the type of people who will push this type of crap. Small 5 stars. Small company, big heart. As if we give a fuck about your heart. Passionate employees, dedicated to providing. It's a generic freaking ChatGPT message. I know who did this, by the way. Fucking Tay-Tay. Fucking cunt. Let's see. Was this review helpful? No one said yes. 6 said no. these motherfuckers, like, they deserve to go out of business. And, people say, oh, you're talking shit. I have not even said their real name. But I really want to I hope they do go out of business. Because the shit they did is a burden on the taxpayer. You can't just kick people out after a month. There's no way you could have known somebody after that. But going back to everyone's favorite Eurasian walrus, who loves to talk massive amounts of shit, and doesn't really have much in terms of well, let's just say he doesn't have as good sense, not even a sense of humor, but I would say timing, right? Here we go, Luke.
Yeah, Dugan, quote, Jerusalem will be a Russian city or it will not exist at all. Oh, really? Ooh,
Russian walrus boy.
Easy there with the anti-Semitic marks. Easy with the anti-Semitic marks there, dude.
You gotta calm down. Well, you have to understand, these are the same people who believe that Charlemagne exists and that Moscow is the third Rome, and the Rome is just a metaphor. And the Middle Ages never happened because a guy named Anatoly Fomenko, we've talked about him before on this channel. He's a mathematician who's noticed similar patterns all throughout history, and as a result of those patterns, he basically denied that antiquity ever happened, that the Middle Ages were made up, and that Rome was actually a hell of a lot more younger in history than it actually was. And shit like Genghis Khan is basically Jesus Christ because Genghis Khan had 12 followers, like the 12 apostles, and Genghis Khan means King of Kings. By the way, hello, Vinny, how you doing? Can you continue with that Luke? Because this is actually some hilarious shit. The fact he just believes this crap.
Let's see. The famous Russian philosopher and political scientist Alexander Dugin accused, and for those who don't know, this is what site is this? Apquin.az? What is this? What is this site?
This is a
Russian site or something, or what is it?
It's a Russian site. It's It's Eastern Com Block country. I think it might actually be a Azerbaijan, maybe? I don't know what .az is. I'll look that up. Keep playing. Keep talking.
Let's see. Alexander Dugin accused Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of murders and predicted a, quote, Russian future for Jerusalem. Dugin spoke about this on his Telegram channel. He has a channel?
Oh, he apparently has a channel, but he does have a Telegram channel, and I stalk it. I'll admit it. I stalked the walrus.
Dugin, known for his closeness to the Kremlin, accused Israeli-Palestinian Benjamin Netanyahu of murders, writing, quote, Bibi destroyed tens of thousands of everyone in a row, right and wrong, because the Torah and the Talmud, in certain interpretations, tell him so. Uh-oh. This is not funny at all. On the contrary, it is worth asking what our Orthodox sacred books, our sacred resources, and our elders say about the end of time. Not weak-minded economists, but those who are much more thorough and serious. And the Iranians are preparing to respond to Bibi based on their ideas about the moment of the Mahdi. Once again, economics are resting. Myth is stronger than reality, if only because reality is also a myth. Only unsuccessful, colorless, and stupid. What?
What the fuck? Does he jump off a cliff, walrus man?
Socialists
fly with the wonders of nature.
I mean, socialists always use this poetic language, but what the heck is that supposed to mean? Let's see. Let me try that. Once again, economists are resting. Myth is stronger than reality, if only because reality is also a myth. Only unsuccessful, colorless, and stupid. Huh.
This is what happens when you read too much Michael Moorcock. He thinks the warp is real.
It also happens when you read too much Marx, because Marx talks exactly like this. Regarding Jerusalem, Dugin wrote, the Russian city is the monster of all cities. The Russian city is the mother of all cities. Jerusalem will be Russian or it will not exist at all, and His Majesty Kritovas will rule there. So, says the secret dove book, the book of the deep. The Russian Tsar is the Tsar of all Tsars. Okay. He's
the Kang of Kangs. I honestly, you could very well play the card that these guys are basically, we're in the end times. I don't think we are in the end times. I really don't. But these guys so desperately want to be end times. And you know why? Because the Soviet boomers are slowly aging out, and they're going to die off. And they don't believe in any of the Orthodox bullshit because they're too fucking corrupt.
Well, they also believe that conflict creates new things. Like I just recently saw James Lindsay's take on George Soros, and George Soros fundamentally believes that great changes in history are caused by horrible tragedies, effectively.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude. James Lindsay. Between him and Tick History, these guys, like, we need to protect them. We really seriously need to protect them. And apparently, you had a brush in with little Borisenko, little Borakita.
I'm not really having a brush with her because the thing I'm just taking with issue with, because the thing is about Borisenko and Lindsay is that they just don't like each other, and they express that constantly in their conversations. Like, but you're on the same side. Why do you care about this, like, perpetuating this spat? And the thing is, I do agree. I mean, I'm more on James Lindsay, and I can't stand Borisenko's ego about her response to all this. But I have a conversation with her, like, well, you're on the same side. Why are you having? And she just insists that James Lindsay is not telling the truth, and like, because he's just talking about higher academic stuff, which I think is very important.
Yeah, it is, but I will give some points to Borisenko in this regard, because the thing here is that if you could get a picture of James Lindsay and Borisenko, put him up if you can, on the screen.
Let's see if I can find a...
The thing about Borisenko and actually James Lindsay is that he keeps using the term Gnosticism, but he's using it in a certain way that Eric Vogel would use. So it's not like historical Gnosticism, and in fact, even the term Gnosticism is just what we would call it. But like the Gnostics back in, let's say, the time of antiquity, they don't call themselves Gnostics. They just say, "Oh, we are Christians. Oh, we are Muslims. Oh, we are Zoroastrians.
Well,
or we are whatever the heck."
I mean, Mormons would call themselves Christians, but they're not.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, Gnosticism, as it stands, is a new term that is used. It is not necessarily. It's an academic term, right? So as a result of that, when you use an academic term, you kind of have to buy into certain academic assumptions. I personally think to say that a lot of these Marxists and communists and whatnot, they speak from special revelation. And that way we don't have to even go down the Gnostic rabbit hole. Because one of the things I've talked about before is that these guys basically... they basically are, how can I say it in a way that you understand?
Ultimately, the biggest problem with James Lindsay and Carlin is that they're both former leftists, which means they have sensibilities that make them really obnoxious, both really obnoxious and sensitive.
Well, it's not even that he's a former leftist. He's an atheist, and I guarantee he won't be an atheist once he realizes how bad things are. If only he knew how bad things really are, Luke, he truly would probably immediately convert to something. It may not be Christianity, but he will believe in God before this is over, because he's going to see the devil.
I mean, his religion is his religion is liberalism, so.
Well, liberalism is not a religion, and that's like saying Marxism is a religion, and we don't play that. We don't play that tune.
Well, technically, right? Yes, because a religion is a system of thought, a belief and practice that tells you how the world is and what you ought to do with it, which gives rise to duties of conscience, and that's the reason why secular humanism, it's technically a religion by the Supreme Court.
Well, I'll tell you this: the Supreme Court needs to actually clarify, and I've said this before. If there's one thing I could ask the Supreme Court is, what is the difference, if any, between an ideology and religion? Because you can make the argument that Islam is actually an ideology, because it's not just a bunch of assumptions about who God is and what man's place is in the cosmos. It's also about tax. It has its own tax system, its own system of jurisprudence, and it has a bunch of things that are more of how to govern society and govern a community, as opposed to just philosophize about how man should act.
But that's all. It's all interconnected. If you've seen his first video in his sovereign nation, or not the sovereign nations, he basically details all that and how it's all interconnected.
Yeah, but the problem here is that you have to prove that in court. Like, if I said to you that, oh, you have to prove the intent, a lot of these guys don't have the intent, and how could they have the intent, right?
Well, I mean, the reason why the Supreme Court doesn't acknowledge Marxism or communism as religions is because it doesn't have a theos. It doesn't have a god, hypothetically.
Well, then you just make one up and have a placeholder god. And really the only thing that's holding it back is you could have the Soviet new man be the god.
I mean, oddly enough, what was that internet legend called the basilisk?
Roscoe's basilisk.
Yeah, basically the god of Marxism is Roscoe's basilisk, except it's the man in the man in the fullness of history, where man can look back on history as, oh, we were so backward and we're so enlightened now. So that's basically what the basilisk is. The human version of the basilisk is the Marxist god.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, we got some 4 viewers. That's pretty good so far. Here's another one from the dark side. The dark side
So-
review because here here you go.
Okay, what's this?
Small feel and welcome at first, but shady in the end. The company made me feel welcomed at first, but in the end were very shady and laid people off because of poor management with funding and over projecting profit. Hardly any benefits. The turnover here is alarming, and I would stay away. Got laid off out of nowhere without any warning or write up. I just completely screwed over. And not alone in this regard. Stay away from this tanking MSP, which is a managed service provider. So these guys are going to go under. Oh, hell yes, they're going to go under. I don't usually like to wish harsh shit on people, but when you fucking when someone is economically hurting, and again, Luke, I'm not an asshole here, okay? You can't just hire someone, cut them off at the end of the fucking month. Because it fucking psychologically fucked with me. But
it's rude.
Thank God they're being... No, it's not just rude. It like, imagine you're trying to go for a long-term work. Like, you want to work for, like, 3+ years, and maybe even if you could, 20+ years and get yourself a Rolex at the end of it all. That's what I want to do, because I want to have a family someday. If you're, like, just jump from one job to another, and this one, they cut you off right after the fifth, or, like, not the fifth, 1 month, that's insane. And those people should just go under. And I hope they do. I truly hope they do.
Yeah, that's what unfortunately, that's what the gig economy is slowly becoming, as the excuse to just fire people.
Oh, yeah, sadly.
Yeah, you can get a job, it's no big deal. Yeah, but it's not as good as that. I mean, good economies can make some good money, but they're not as good as those tech jobs.
Well, I'm in a tech job that's working for a big firm, let's say. So I actually am doing very well for myself, all things considering. And I honestly want to say that despite the fact that some of those people there were Marines, I don't know what their MOS is, but I guarantee you they weren't full combatant roles. They weren't combatants. So I spilt more blood than they ever did. Haha. Fight me on that, fucking Chaos Marine. But this is one for you. No, I legitimately had to spill blood to fucking pay the rent. Like, that old saying, like, I sold bone marrow and I sold blood to survive, or semen, right? I didn't sell my seed, but I did sell my fucking blood, and I had to survive.
Indeed.
Fuckers.
That's getting more profitable.
So
honestly, that's actually getting more profitable than certain aspects of work. So much time and investment, so much investment in human remains.
Well, again, it wasn't even all my blood. It was just the blood plasma. So what they would do is they'd siphon it off from me and then inject it back into me like some sort of fucking... I don't know. I didn't like it, especially... It's one thing to do it out of free will, but if you're trying to survive, it's like cosmic horror levels of, like, survival. Like, I have to hack off my arm so I don't get infected by the T virus or some shit like that.
Joy. Or worse, pay the rent.
Oh, I've already paid my rent this month, or for this month and the next month, and I just want to be able to. I will never be put in that position ever again, and they can go fuck themselves because we're a family company. You're not a family. You don't even look like you're related. Are you like a cult or something? Maybe you are a cult front. I don't fucking know. Anyhow,
I mean,
here's something for you.
Would you say the business was kind of like an MLM, or is it like a legitimate tech business?
They came off. They had their own place. They had their own warehouse. It was right by the airport, which I guess I don't know if that's a strike against them or for them, but right by the airport. And these cunts, they were basically working with a lot of these reefer pot growing businesses, and they were doing the IT side of things. Like they were basically managing the IT services for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, which it is profitable, but the problem here is they weren't paying enough, and they just kept laying people off. Which again, thank God that I'm not the only one who noticed this shit, because you kind of have this feeling of like, it wasn't me, like this battered wife sort of feeling, like I can't leave him, I love him, type of crap. Here you go, Luke. This is something that real talk. Would you rather do this, or would you rather go to therapy?
What is this?
My phone battery just died, so for this particular video, I'm not going to show skin. But it was an interesting thing that I found that I wanted to make a video right away because you got this post. Men would rather do this than go to therapy. And as you can see, people in the comment taking this as a meme or anything, and they're like, what are men doing? This actually bewildered and horrified. Like, yeah, men love violence. What are men doing? This is unacceptable.
That looks awesome, honestly.
Freaking like Anchorman or some shit.
Like the large hitting each other for this replicate combat. That's fun. That looks like fun.
Dude, but seriously, I would rather do that than go to therapy. That is amazing.
Unfortunately, you have to actually fall down when you get hit, so bah.
Well, yeah, that way, so you don't get beaten 100 times with the same stick with silafrome or plexi, polypropylene or whatever the hell it is. I would love to do that again, and I know you and I both have done that with the pirates and whatnot. But yep. Oh yeah. Speaking of, I went to the recent there was a church get together, and I've been getting with the church again, and well, let's just say that I'm slowly growing up, and I'm slowly trying to pursue virtue with Christ our Lord, so to speak. But that doesn't mean I won't pop up ever so often to how shall we say it, have a little bit of fun with the pirates. Because let's be frank, as much as I don't agree with their ideologies, I like them. Here we go. So here's another one that I got, because we're just going to be shooting for the hip. So you remember how I told you about Karen Borisenko, how she was like supposedly a theosophist, right?
She is technically, isn't she?
Well, she is. She is a theosophist. She believes in like the ascended masters and a bunch of other shit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I recently saw that interview between Hunter Avalon and Hunter Avalon's scum, but she kind of called him with a question, and I don't care how much you are on her side, saying that makes you look very sus.
Saying what?
She said, everything is justified on the spiritual level, but not the human level. Like, oh wow.
Yes. So, you want to play it? Play that. So just so people understand what we're talking about.
Well, I mean, in the context of, because she got into like a tiff with people because she was trying to say it as a joke, and she said that the people who died in the Holocaust plan to die in the Holocaust. On a spiritual level, for clarity, she didn't believe that the Jews actually wanted to die in the Holocaust, but in the spiritual preexistence, they want to learn that lesson.
Yeah, so it was basically false consciousness. What they really wanted was to experience what it was like to be, doused in Cyclone B, essentially, which is what she was getting at, right? They have to learn to experience what it's like to be Holocaust. They have to experience what it's like to be the both the oppressor and the oppressed, because it's all about experience, don't you know?
And that implies that Hitler's spirit also agreed to that, to do the bidding. I mean, I'm a Calvinist. I know my position is we can be kind of edgy, but geez, Carlin, the only difference between you and a Hermetic is gnosis.
Well, it's also the fact that if again, a lot of these people don't believe in the shit that that the actual people who they don't believe in this actual stuff that these people who like Blavatsky and even H.P. Lovecraft espouse. H.P. Lovecraft was a fucking racist. Like, oh my god, the levels of racism these people had. So play it, Luke. Play it.
Let's see, where's the part where she says it, though? I'm trying to remember.
Agree with me. But on a spiritual level, yes, there is a school of thought that says that every single person who died... This is something that's been discussed ad nauseum in the spiritual community. This is not like...
the spiritual community.
The spirit science community.
Not a concept that I'm pulling out of left field. There is a school of thought in the spiritual community that says that every single person...
And she takes issue with the idea that there's no evidence for the Gnostic connection to socialism. Like, really? You take issue with that, but not this?
Well, this is the same person who like has like a gay guy on her. I think he might be gay. I'm not entirely certain. That's not fair. But an effeminate guy who's reading tarot cards on stream, and they're taking it seriously somewhat.
Yeah. It's like...
This is the type of chick. Like, this is the type of chick. I think I shared it with you before. Who's basically never grew out of her Wiccan phase, and as a result, she's...
And to her cred, the spat between her and James Lindsay is basically saying, well, I make it more simple for everyone to understand, and there is some truth to that. The thing is, I like James Lindsay because he explains in a way that I haven't heard before. And that's something that will always stick with me.
Yep. So keep playing it?
In spirit form, that was in the Holocaust, decided to be in the Holocaust. It was an agreement they made in spirit form before they ever came here. Now, why would that happen? Why would that be like
even the comment section, like, holy cow, dude, is she for real?
Yeah, they're like, are you for real? Like, Do you understand what this means? Like here's the thing that I would have asked to be listed. So in spirit form, so there's no such thing as good and bad. Okay, but what about in material, the carnal form? Because I'll tell you this: if somebody tries to kill my friend Jupiter, let's say, because his name, we'll just say his name, Jupiter, because he's a Jew, right? If someone tries to kill him specifically because of that, I'm gonna kick their ass. Okay, I don't need we're all as one in spirit form. Well, no, we're not in spirit form, are we? You know, we're not. We're it's one thing for me to say I have higher virtue on our planet, but we're not on our planet, are we? You know. So here's something for you, Luke. I sent it to you again. Take a look. So this is the shit that the dude Blavatsky believes when it comes to racism. This is sort of the elaboration on her spiritual racist bullshit.
Oh, Blavatsky.
People actually believe this.
Oh,
the dude. The dude.
Oh, right.
It's Friday, September 27th. This is going to be a super quick video, I promise. I'm not going to blather on and on and on. I'm preparing for my class next week. We're going to be talking about Blavatsky and the Secret Doctrine and the Theosophical Society and how her ideas about Atlantis, how they compare to Ignatius Donnelly's, and some of those threads that have continued today into today's thinking about Atlantis and lost civilizations and that sort of stuff. And one of the kind of overarching themes of this class is how conceptions of race play out in these ideas about lost continents, lost civilizations, where culture comes from, how it moves, what human variation means. A lot of these ideas go back to the age of European exploration and colonization. A lot of them kind of become ossified in the late 1800s, so it's a super interesting period to look at. I think she uses the term race in a complex way. It means different things at different times. There are 7 root races that have sub-races. Each of those root races is associated with a continent. These continents are kind of emerging and sinking, and her timeline goes way, way back before Atlantis. But anyway, the Aryan race is the 5th root race, so that is where we're in now, according to her. And it has several sub-races. Let me read the sub-races. Okay, the sub-races of the Aryan race, according to Blavatsky, are the Hindu, the Arabian, the Persian, the Celts, the Teutonic.
The Hindu. The Hindu is the Hindu, Luke. The Hindu is considered a race. Now, I don't know about you, but if the Hindu is a race, does that mean the Muslim is also a race? Because I always thought Hinduism was a religion. It wasn't actually like a race. Like the Indians or even the West Indians, let's say, or the West Asians, let's say, you could argue they're a race, right? But like the Muslim, he's not a race. The Christian, hey, actually, Luke, can I transcend spiritually if you become a Catholic, or let's say you go down in consciousness or higher in consciousness if you become a Protestant or Orthodox? That's the type of thinking we're getting at. So Iranian, the Hindu, what else? What other races are part of Aryan? Go on. Playing it.
Sorry, I had a knock on my door.
Oh, it's all good.
Thing in
But
North America, the 6th subrace will be called the Australo-American subrace, apparently happening now in California. And the 7th subrace, which has not emerged yet, the survivors of the Great New Cataclysm that will soon destroy the Aryan root race. So when I've been reading through these lists of the root races, I thought, well, that actually leaves a lot of people out that we know about in the world today. So what does she do with those people? So that got me looking for treatments of kind of Blavatsky's thinking on race in the way that we would understand it today, you know, compared to the way that they might have understood it in the 19th century. So I found this paper called The Notion of Race in Theosophy by James Santucci, a 2008 paper in the journal Novo Religio, the Journal of Alternative and Emergent Religions. Okay, sounds interesting. I haven't read the whole paper yet. I only have access to the abstract at this point, but I was piqued by the last line in the abstract. Race, as interpreted in the Secret Doctrine, is not racist in intent, and the races are seen as having one thing in common, the divine spark that ultimately makes all races the same in essence. So that seems to be it's kind of an apologetic view of the Secret Doctrine and Blavatsky's views on race, and the reason it struck me was that it seemed to directly counter something that I had just read in the Secret Doctrine, and I want to read that part now. Okay, so this is a footnote on page 421 of the Secret Doctrine, Volume 2. Mankind is obviously divided into God-informed men and lower human creatures. The intellectual difference between the Aryan and other civilized nations and such savages as the South Sea Islanders is inexplicable on any other grounds. No amount of culture...
Oh, come on! Really? People believe this shit, too. And this is the type of shit that Spirit Science would be running his mouth about, right? He'll talk about how the Atlanteans were like taken over by the Martians, and then the Jews, who are also aliens, came to save everybody. And he has like, what, 2.3 million subscribers, right? And he doesn't get fucking popped. No, not at all. No, but we'll get popped because we'll talk about stuff that, you know, what Ben Shapiro doesn't like, right? We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, you know, Jewish Wiccans, let's say, who wanted to be called Jew witches. No joke, they actually want to be called that, right? But it's so unfair. It's such a double standard, and even that stuff is way more destructive. Keep playing it and slow it down. By the way, I can't really hear it very well.
Let's see.
Training amid civilization could raise such human specimens as the Bushmen, the Vedas of Ceylon, and some African tribes to the same intellectual level as the Aryans, the Semites, and the Turanians, so-called. The quote-unquote sacred spark is missing in them, and it is they who are the only inferior races on the globe, now happily, owing to the wise adjustment of nature which ever works in that direction, fast dying out. Verily mankind is, quote, of one blood, unquote, but not of the same essence. We are the hothouse, artificially quickened plants in nature, having in us a spark, which in them is latent. Now, if that is not the most 19th century racist thing that you could possibly think to write, I don't know what is. The idea that there are two kinds of people in the world.
Spiritual
that are
niggas.
civilized because they are capable of being civilized, and there's everybody else who is not capable of being civilized, and therefore anything that civilization, any way the civilization interacts with them, whether it's colonialism or slavery, like, is actually doing them a favor. I mean, that's 19th century, 18th century racism to its core.
And nowadays we call critical race theory.
Yep. We have to. It's the white man's burden to ignite the spiritual spark in these people because they have false consciousness. Being dominated by the white man is what they should have wanted, right? Again, and here's the thing: like Lovecraft, who had the same ideas, but nobody, like, if you're playing Call of Cthulhu, you're not going to have that type of shit unless, of course, you're trying to immerse yourself into the setting. But generally speaking, if you play like a tabletop, they're not going to have the racist bullshit in there, even though that was all the rage at the time of Lovecraft's writing. I mean, he talks about how, like, they're like ape men and like human fish people hybrids and shit. Like, a lot of weird, crazy crap that, like, people did actually believe it at the time. Oh, you could just keep playing it.
But I've played this section here.
East from evil, and now stuff's getting dark. Tat says, wait a minute. He says, again, Father, what do you mean? The adulterer is not evil? The murderer and all the rest are not evil? Those are things that he says. Wait, you're saying people with nose, Gnostics, aren't evil? Well, what if they're an adulterer? What if they're murderers? That are they not evil? And Hermes replies, they are. But the suffering of one with reason will not be as an adulterer, but as if an adulterer. Not as a murderer, but as if a murderer. It is impossible to escape the state of death, just as it is impossible to escape the state of birth. But for the one who has nose, it is possible to escape evil.
Ooh. Oh,
these
boy.
people lack any form of moral standard because to them moral standards are a social construct created by the demiurge and their archonic oppressors to keep the spiritual white man down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't fucking know. But besides that, let's see what else we got here. Okay, here's some stuff we got from my I actually am quite happy about this. Luke.
Oh, what's that?
L14. I have been starting to call out a lot of these guys on the left and on the right. And again, shout out to the Golden One. I like him to a certain degree. But some of the shit he says is just like self-defeating.
Oh,
so
what happened this time?
So he says, in Sweden, I could not stop thinking about this. So I had to make a video expressing my thoughts as well. I mainly wanted to share my disgust on the mainstream politicians for the great show they put on, their crocodile tears and their talks now. This guy, for those you don't know, is Fabio. He's literally Fabio or like some sort of Tarzan-looking motherfucker. He's a barbarian. He's a barbarian. What's up, Luke?
Could you send it to me that's not in your bookmark form?
Okay. We'll send it to you. That's not on our bookmark
Hold on
form.
a second.
Here you go. Copy link. There.
Oh, here we go. So what's he say? What does he say?
Now, perhaps you've seen the news, the latest horror story from the nightmarish multicultural hell project in Sweden. If you haven't, then I will give you a brief overview of what happened. This is Mikael, father, 39 years of age. Him and his 12-year-old son were going to the local swimming hall for a nice training session, and a youth gang, I'm using that term so I don't get into legal trouble, hate speech or something like that, because you
you don't want to be you don't want to be busted for elder discrimination, right? You want to be ageist. You have to say they're a youth gang as opposed to not adolescent gang or a geriatric gang, you know, like they're fucking Al Capone or some shit with Tommy guns. Keep going.
Point to the problem than to commit actual crimes. So they were harassed by a youth gang. Mikael decides to go back and confront them, to tell them off, to say, don't harass me and my son, we're just trying to enjoy our day. And in response to this youth gang, they shoot him in the head, killing him, and then his son, his 12-year-old son, has to call the police himself and then calls his grandmother, saying what happened. So yeah, that is the story, if I got all of the details right. Now, I was actually unsure if I should make this video because it's such a grim happening, but it's for the greater good to actually talk about it so people know what's going on. Now, hard to talk in this situation, of course, because what to say, but I still want to say something. I want to say that the solution is for good men to get into positions of power and influence and then gain as much political power as possible. Men with political will.
Okay.
Women with political will.
And here's my response. Run for office. You have the body for it. You literally will have people who will say, I'm going to vote for the strong guy. You literally have the ability to run for office in Sweden, dude. What is his response? Scroll down.
Things would need to get a lot worse before someone like me could run for office. Talk about differences in race, etc. is still deemed too racial for a political discourse, but thanks.
This is why I hate these fucking people on both the left and on the right. They're getting way too much money from the sweet super chats and all the money and the fame and all that shit. And not to mention the political hookup culture. Like, again, you don't have to even talk about race. Just be a man of order and say, oh, these guys are running around raping people. Arrest them.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't care. We don't.
If he's ever said that in public, he's going to be held accountable to them, and he's not going to win any elections.
Well, again, it's not that hard, Luke. Like, he doesn't even have to run for like a major, but he doesn't have to run for like president of Sweden or parliament, or I don't even know what they have over there. But he could run for like mayor of his hometown and just get your foot in the door that way, or be the health and fitness coach of like Sweden or like your hometown. Do something. And again, that way people know who you are. You have a record. But if you're like one of these activists who basically, they'll take money from all around the world. So as a result, you might have people who want to destabilize Sweden or destabilize your country, basically fund these people to go over to other countries to preach the wonderful gospel according to, the Mustachio Man or whoever the fuck it is, the Mustachio artist dude. Mm-hmm. Not to accuse the Golden One of being one of those people, but again, it's just a cop-out. It really is a cop-out at the end of the day because, again, you don't have to be being a senator or even for running for president. Run for like student council. Like in America, we'd run for mayor, run for city council, run for board of education if you can. You don't have to be like, I don't even think you'd be competent enough to get all the way to the top. I don't think you would. I think you'd have to start from the bottom and go up. But no, things have to get way worse. I'm like, okay, well then stop bitching about it. And that's not me trying to be, again, I'm trying to tough love here, right? If you're gonna make content standing on the graves of these people and say how horrible it is and how men need to stand up and fight, I'm like, okay, lead the way. Lead the way. You won't. None of them will. And when you confront these cunts on it, that's when you know that you shouldn't be giving them the fucking money. Because they will literally thrive off of your hipster welfare.
No one pays these people for running for office. They run them and pay them to be influencers.
Yeah. And that is the dangerous part about what's going on in the dissident right and as well as the dissident left, if you will. I mean, look at all the people who are funded by Hamas and funded by like all these Islamic groups on the left. Right? Look at all the communist groups. Look at all like Hope Not Hate. Look at the SBLC, right? And then again, was it the Southern Poly Law Center? There was a time in the past when these guys were like had their head on straight. They weren't going after people for misgendering someone or pronoun violations. They were going after people because they were literally beating and lynching people because they were black. This was back in like the 70s and 60s and shit, right? but it eventually got co-opted by the left as well. Anyhow. So again, until Golden One runs for office, I don't want to hear any lip about how horrible things are getting, because again, he doesn't have to be the head honcho. He just has to be part of the system and then gain some street credit, no pun intended, to get ahead. That's it. But what won't happen? Why don't we have any viewers? What the fuck? Maybe it's because of having sort of a error. Please use a keyframe frequency of 4 seconds or less. Currently, keyframes are not being sent often enough, which will cause buffering. What that is?
So it's something on my end with the images.
Yeah, I think so.
I have 30 frames per second. Does that have to slow it down or something?
No, we'll figure it out later on. It's all good. We'll figure this out later on. So, besides that, and besides the fact that, the dark side of technology is getting its just desserts, and yeah, I'm going to keep harping on it because I've never had that type of shit happen before in my life, and yeah, that still continues. Anyhow, let's see what else we got here. Do you have anything you want to share, Luke? Do you have anything you want to talk about? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's really going on. I mean, apparently World War III is kicking off.
Oh yeah, where is it happening again? Is it happening in Syria or I forget?
It's apparently the Iranians decide to use their drone strikes on Israel, and Israel's now starting to spurg out and start killing everything that moves. They're literally doing the whole Old Testament God thing of kill everybody, including the people who are associated with them. Because why the fuck you associate with pedophiles and rapists? Why you associated with murderers and whatnot? That's the old God. With the old God does not differentiate between the individuals. Jesus does. It's the truth. God will literally burn an entire village to the ground, or a whole city, and they'll rain fire upon it and turn everything to salt. But there's times when in the Bible it even said that when Sodom and Gomorrah was going to be burned to the ground and destroyed, Lot prayed that if there was one good man, that he would spare it. There wasn't one good man, and he burned them all to the ground and killed them all. Let God sort them out. Speaking of killing them all, let God sort them out. You've been watching Sargon lately?
Oh yeah, he's making his content again. I notice.
Oh yeah, because it's that time of year, so he has to get them super chats, right?
Yeah, he's talked about the atheist video in response to what Dawkins did about how he prefers living in a Christian culture. And what was the other one that he did just recently?
I am Jack's spiritual bug posting. I think it was
bug
posting.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Well, I wanted to watch this one about Richard Dawkins. Have you actually seen The Last Church that he was referring to? The book.
I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
There's a part it's really sad. It really, really is sad. I actually cried when I first read it. It's about an hour long, and it's basically the story of the God Emperor of Mankind from Warhammer 40k going up to this one, because he's a military. Because for those of you who don't know, the God Emperor of Mankind is a militant atheist, and he basically wants to get rid of religion. Why does he want to get rid of religion? Well, because he knows that religion fuels the powers of chaos. Belief itself is a weapon to these people. And as a result, he says, well, if they don't believe in them, then they'll be immune to all the abilities and stuff. Checkmate, fucking Christians, right? There's a scene in the where the far distant future, or I should say in the past, let's say, because it's technically before 40k, the present 41st millennia, right? It's 30k of Warhammer 30k, if you will. At this time, there's one final church on Earth, right? And instead of just razing it to the ground, the God Emperor tries to reason with this guy and says, hey, look at what all the good things religion does. Look at all the bad things religion has done. And eventually what happens is, spoiler alert, the priest, instead of joining the God Emperor, he walks into the burning church and doesn't want to join in. And I really do think that's what's happened here. They've tried to kill Christianity off, or at least take away the influence of Christianity, because I don't know, they just hated Christianity. I don't know what his reasoning is. I personally think it's intellectual arrogance. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, and the thing I take issue with is the idea that they killed Christianity. No, Christianity wasn't killed; it was just pushed aside because it was no longer going to be a part of the more larger political narrative. Is that, oh no, you're not allowed to talk anymore. But Christianity hasn't gone away, just not in the public eye.
Yeah, and again, a lot of it is like it's gotten to the point where it's become a joke, right? Like we're a Christian server, we're on a Christian server. You have to be nice. Like it's kind of a joke like that. Well, let me just say this: at least Christians have servers. Muslims don't. There ain't no Muslim gaming server. I've never seen one, and probably because they're smart enough not to do that shit because they know that everyone would be fucking banned for talking shit about everyone's favorite. What's the term they use? Lolicon pedophile, right? Just saying. Here you go. Here's Stargon's take. By the way, go subscribe to Stargon, even though he's a piece of... I honestly think he's becoming a Russian asset, honestly.
A very interesting Warhammer story called The Last Church, in which the Emperor of Mankind visits the last remaining church on Earth to try and deconvert the last believer and tear it down. For anyone who hasn't read or listened to the audio track of my epic, The Politics of Warhammer 40,000, you might not know that there is a theological contradiction at the heart of 40k, which gives the setting more depth than one might expect at first glance. The Emperor of Mankind is some kind of Ubermensch, who is clearly simply superior to other humans, in both mind and body. He was also a militant new atheist, who wanted to extirpate the concept of religion from the galaxy. The irony of the setting, aside from the fact that, in any other universe, the Emperor would have been regarded as some kind of demigod, is that when mankind spreads out across the galaxy, they do so under the rubric of the Imperial Truth, which is an official creed set by the Emperor of atheism, rationalism, and science. However, it is discovered that there are, in fact, gods. Evil gods of chaos that use magic to pervert and corrupt mankind, and these evil gods manage to bewitch Horus, the Emperor's favourite son, and cause half the Emperor's legions to defect to chaos. The ensuing civil war sees Horus slain by the Emperor himself, who is mortally wounded, King Arthur style, and then placed on a life support device called the Golden Throne. The reason that this springs to mind is because recently Richard Dawkins, one of the famous four horsemen of the New Atheist movement, was interviewed on a radio station called LBC and admitted to being a cultural Christian. This made some waves online, even though this wasn't actually the first time Dawkins has said it.
Which, by the way, he's just trying to save face, because let's not kid ourselves here. He was the head of this fucking movement, right? And, again, the big problem with atheism as a movement is that it's not a logically positive position to hold, is it, Luke?
Yeah.
Like, if I said there is no God...
To be united in hatred is no unity at all. Because the very second your hatred disappears, you have nothing to unite you.
No, I wouldn't even say united in hatred. Some of it might be hatred on an individual level, but on a collective level, you can't even make that assumption. Like, there may be very well people out there who say, I'm an atheist because I never really thought of it. There may be people who say, I'm an atheist because, the priest touched me. I'm an atheist because my parents were into that New Age shit, so therefore I'm against, mysticism. I'm an atheist because I've looked at all the data and the evidence. I've come to the conclusion on my own. There are people like that. But here's the problem. When you start talking about the collective, you can't really make much in terms of like actual definitive, like concrete examples of what atheists believe. They don't believe in anything. They simply don't. There isn't any, like, there's an organization, but they don't speak for everybody. They're not a representative of the collective, right? It's a marketing gimmick, and we all know it. I mean, the Four Horsemen shit, that was all a marketing gimmick designed specifically to buff Dawkins, Higgins, and the rest of the fuckers' careers. That's it. These people were grifters in every sense of the word. Identitarian grifters. And guess what happened to fucking Dawkins? Do you remember what happened? He asked a girl out for a cup of coffee in an elevator, and then that girl said, "Oh my God, he tried to rape me."
Yeah, I don't think that was Dawkins. It was just a random atheist to happen in elevator gates, and that's how the atheist.
No, it was Dawkins.
Wait, that was actually Dawkins.
Yeah, Dawkins was wanted to, like, he was hitting on, I can't remember what the chick's name was, but he hit on this SJW girl and said, "Hey, would you like to get a cup of coffee?" And then she felt really uncomfortable because they were in like an elevator for God knows how long, right? And apparently she accused him of rape or sexual assault. And again, it's literally just asking a chick for coffee, right?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and that's when Dawkins realized, oh my God, you've allowed evil into your home. You've allowed these people who, again, they're atheists, but they're plus they're atheist plus a feminist plus a social justice warrior plus queer plus socialism and all this other shit. Atheism is a vacuum. Now, if I said to you, hey, we're Christians plus, that doesn't make any sense. That we can immediately say, well, what the hell is that? We have an idea what Christianity believes. We have somewhat of an idea.
Oh, it wasn't Dawkins. Dawkins it was just a random feminist who took offense to the fact that a guy asked her out for coffee in an elevator, and Dawkins attacked her for, what was it he said? Prominent atheist came out attacking Watson. What was her name? Rebecca Watson, which made me lose a lot of respect for people I otherwise quite like. I was something of a mess. Yeah, so Richard Dawkins like, wait, this is stupid. Why are we talking about this? Oh, no, Dawkins, you're not allowed to comment on that.
You are not allowed to talk about that because you are an evil cis white male. Keep playing it, Luke.
One may remember that the New Atheists were very active in the late 1990s and early 2000s.
How can I forget?
Vigorously debating Christians and doing whatever they were able in order to impose the imperial truth on a society in which Christianity had already begun to slowly die. It isn't that the New Atheists killed Christianity. Instead, they spent a great deal of energy beating a dying horse. New Atheism itself fizzled out when it turned out that there was no great Christian dragon left to slay, and out of its ashes rose the phoenix of social justice. The New Atheists, with their dogmatic insistence on reason and science, cleared the path for the rational restructuring of society along gender, sex, and racial lines, what we now call woke ideology. After learning that Ramadan was being celebrated publicly in London, Dawkins expressed his horror that a religion other than Christianity was being promoted in Britain, and explained his affinity for the Christian religion, which he describes as a fundamentally decent religion.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer. But there's a
Get the
distinction
fuck
between
out of
being
here.
a Christian and being a
Shut the
cultural
fuck
Christian.
up.
I mean, keep in mind,
you open Pandora's box, and now you're pissed off that the only thing that didn't pop out was hope.
Yeah, I mean, he said in a documentary of his, says we need to do away with religion. It's divisive and it's dangerous. Like, what is this? Like, Dawkins, you couldn't attack the true religion because was it too horrible to attack the Quran and Islam?
No, he's too much. He likes life on easy mode. He doesn't he expects people to be able to have a reasonable, rational argument instead of someone just going up to him and stabbing him in the fucking face like Islam does. That shit is fucking cancer. And do Christians have to do that now? Because that's the only way they'll shut you the fuck up with your crazy militant atheist bullshit. Just because you're not comfortable in the fucking skin you're in doesn't mean we all have to suffer, right?
Mm-hmm. See, where were we? Explain.
I would also not be happy if we lost our beautiful cathedrals and parish churches to be converted into mosques. But why is it that this is the dynamic that we are presented with? The answer, of course, is a fundamental imbalance in belief. Muslims believe in Islam and believe it is their duty to pay to have mosques constructed, and they actually take the time to attend them. In Britain, at least, church attendance has never been lower, and we do not spend the time and money on our religion in the same way because we don't really have one anymore. If a church cannot be maintained, it will be sold, mostly converted into housing, but also converted into a mosque. What Dawkins is asking for is to have the consequences of religion without the mechanism of it.
Which was always a problem with post-Christian beliefs. Like, all these new atheist movements are post-Christian. They said, oh, well, we don't need to believe in God. We can still have all the effects of God. Like, no, that's not how that works.
You have the believers without the belief. Naturally, this contradiction cannot hold, and without sincere belief, there will be no believers. This fact seems to have become apparent in the years after the New Atheists, where the consequences of killing Christianity are bearing their poisoned fruit. Social breakdown, a failure of personal ethics, a lack of moral authority, the death of the desire to build things which are beautiful, and the creation of a vacuum.
I mean, you can always stop them from coming in, stop importing them, but the government's not going to do that either because they need to get people to replace the dying population.
Yeah, and the problem here is that they just laid off of us and let us earn some fucking money and keep what we make, which, by the way, I will say this, I did do my taxes, and guess what? I actually came out ahead. In California, I never once was able to come out ahead. I never once I would save up $1,000, $4,000 or whatever the fuck it might be. But eventually, come tax season, everything, I just get gutted every year. And it happened 3 or 4 years in a row. First time, I actually am getting a net positive. Despite the fact that, I still get fucking letters from California telling me, hey, you qualify for this tax rebate. Here's $250. I'm like, that doesn't, that sounds wonderful, but I moved, so I can't take it. Good faith.
Right.
Yeah.
which foreign religions will happily fill with their true believers. I wonder if Dawkins ever wonders if, in fact, he did the right thing. He may not believe that Christianity is true, whatever that is supposed to mean when dealing with matters of faith, but perhaps the pleasant untruth had virtues that were not immediately obvious, and killing off the alien religion was perhaps a mistake. Dawkins objected to the proliferation and promotion of Islam across London, which he obviously abhors, not just as an atheist, but as he said, as a cultural Christian. That is, as someone who...
He's not a cultural Christian. He's trying to fucking be relevant. I hate to be the guy. There's no such thing as a cultural Christian. There really isn't. You either are a Christian or you're not. You know, you could have your reason, even if it's pragmatism, just to go along, to get along, to talk. Like, for example, you could come to a conclusion that, you know, humans have inalienable rights, right? And you can believe that, but Christianity helps explain it a hell of a lot more. You don't have to believe in Christianity to believe in these things, but you really should. It helps a hell of a lot more to do it. Go on.
Embrace of a people maintained by this loving religion that provided him with the emotional security he viciously attacked later in his life. As he explained in the interview, Dawkins doesn't feel the nostalgia for Islam that he feels for Christianity. He references the pleasant cultural activities of hymns and carols, which made his civilization feel homely and safe, kind and welcoming, and thinks that we should continue these for the intrinsic good that they provide. However, we can't have belief without believers. People don't do these things for their own sake. They do them for the sake of something external to the activity itself, and in the case of religion, something transcendent. If one spends their life attacking the belief that underpins these practices, and eventually succeeds in basically killing them off, it does seem rather strange to then lament the death of the good things which they carried with them in their pleasant untruths. Surely you must have expected to lose those as well as the beliefs.
They didn't. That's the problem. They didn't think they were going to go away.
Moreover, it seems like a decidedly selfish thing to have done, in retrospect. Dawkins grew up in a heavily Christian culture and inherited the benefits of such, which is why he is nostalgic for Christian song and ceremony. They remind him of a better time. An unfortunate consequence of his life's work to discredit Christian teachings is to encourage people to deprive future generations of the same opportunity to develop those feelings towards their own civilization. There is a particular...
He snuffed it out because he's a fucking pussy. I hate to be the guy who says this, but like, if he gets attacked, I ain't helping him. Even as a Christian, I will not help him. I will leave him to his devices. Again, I cannot stress this enough. He made it all about him. Between the four horsemen, they made it all about them. It was all a marketing gimmick for these fuckers. Whether they believed it or not, I don't really care. Because at the end of the day, they made it about them. They wanted to be the star of the show. And they think it all, and like I think true solipsist, the whole world revolved around them. Disgusting.
Apocalypse, told while riding in a car some years back. If he could convince the last believer to deconvert from religion, he wouldn't do it.
If I could convert everyone in this world, not convert, if I could convince to be non-believer, and I've really done brilliantly. There's only one left. One more. And then it'd be done.
There's only one left. The way he describes it, there's only one.
Yes, I wouldn't do it. And Jordan said, what do you mean you wouldn't do it? I said, I don't quite know why I wouldn't do it. It's not just because there would be nothing left to argue with and no one left to argue with. It's not just that. There would be that. Somehow, if I could drive it out of the world, I wouldn't. And the incredulity with which he looked at me stays with me still.
Unlike the Emperor of Mankind, Hitchens might have felt that there was something spiritually wrong with the death of a religion, some kind of irreversible loss, and perhaps thought that there were some boundaries that, for whatever reason, just shouldn't be crossed, even for the dogmatic materialist. Ayaan Hirsi Ali, another member of the Church of New Atheism, in the early 2000s, after escaping Islam, last year announced her conversion to Christianity for precisely the reason that Dawkins is now lamenting its decline. She says, quote, I've come to realise that Bertrand Russell and my atheist friends failed to see the wood for the trees. The wood is the civilization built on the Judeo-Christian tradition. It is the story of the West, warts and all. Russell's critique of those contradictions in the Christian doctrine is serious, but it is also too narrow in scope. To me, though, this feels...
Oh yeah, because no Christian apologists were ever arguing this all those years with you guys.
Well, because at the end of the day, they just wanted brownie points. This is around the time when they actually had a healthy YouTube algorithm where you could show some stupid Christian who believes in, like, the young earth or something like that, who's not really the best when it comes to arguing. They say, look at this. This is what Christianity actually believes. And, like, it's such... Dude, it's not even a straw man. It's just that you're talking to some average Joe who's not exactly the most intellectually gifted. I'm not saying they're stupid. I'm saying they just don't know how to argue and debate logically and rationally. And a lot of people are like this. I don't debate logically and rationally. I understand that I'm not a computer, nor the audience, so therefore pathos, ethos, and I think it was I'm trying to think, telos. Can't remember what the fuck it was. The three different methods of arguing according to Aristotle. It's not always just rationality. Always, like I don't think there's any reason to debate atheists personally. I think there's a reason to have a dialogue with them, but no reason to debate them. Here you go, Luke. I sent this to you already.
What's
There you
this?
go. This is like, if you ever want to watch it sometime, this is the full story of the last church. It's actually on YouTube. I'd recommend it very much so. Play it.
Even if it is for the best, are you delighted to leave all that you know to be thrust into the unknown? No one is. Life is a gift, and our chance to make ourselves into someone before our time in the afterlife. Who would give that up willingly? If you cannot see that plainly, then you are a fool.
Yeah, he's not using a Christian apologetic right there, but then again, what do I expect from atheist writers?
Well, here's the thing.
And atheists don't understand religion at all. Like I've noticed this over and over again. Whenever, like, even Seth MacFarlane, when he talks about religion, like in his Orville is basically secular humanism and there's atheism, but they don't understand how religion works. They actually argue, and he actually argues in Orville, that when people ascend to the heavens, they stop being religious, and that's why they're new enemy to confuse them. Like, are you kidding? I am willing to bet that the first starships are going to have chapels on them. They will have chapels on them, I guarantee you. Or,
I mean, even
if the demographics go this way, they'll have mosques on them. Oh, God.
Well, it'll be like fucking it will be like Dune. It's sad. We really will have the God Emperor, and we'll even fight an AI. And we'll fight the Iron Men, the Men of Iron, so to speak. Keep playing it, Luke, because it gets interesting. Got here. He's praying.
Right in the way, and all his actions are for the benefit of mankind, which is his people. So it is taught in the holy words of our order, and above all,
There is no one to hear you.
I don't care what you say anymore. You have come here to do what you feel you need to do, and I'll not buttress your ego and self-righteousness by playing along any longer. You listen to my words, but hear nothing. End the charade.
As you wish. No more games.
Golden one. That's fine.
Oh. You.
Now do you understand the futility of what you do here?
You are the Emperor.
I am. It is time to go, Uriah.
Go where? There is nowhere else for me in this godless world of yours.
Of course there is. Embrace the new way and be part of something incredible. A world and a time where we stand on the brink of achieving everything we ever dreamed.
Again, I'd highly recommend people look into this on their own. It's on YouTube. It's free. I'd recommend it. I actually cried in it because it's written very well. Like, you could tell that, like, the guy who wrote it tried to steel man religion in general. Because here's the thing: it's not a Catholic priest. It's that he's arguing against. It's just a generic theist compared to compared to, how should we say it, a generic atheist, if you will, a militant atheist, if you will. Keep playing it.
Ona's work was never meant for darkness. Only in the light can it achieve its full potential. Humanity is the same. And only when the suffocating shadows of a religion that teaches us not to question is gone from this world will we see its true, radiating brilliance.
And for the record, Christianity never teaches you not to question things. It just says, well, there's no way to question it because you can't really understand the Trinity. Like, you can't understand the mysteries. You can try, but you'll just run yourself into heretical circles.
Yeah, exactly. You know, say what you will about mysteries, because mystery, I'm trying to think what the actual etymology of the word is, because keep playing. I'm going to find that for you real quick. Keep playing.
I will miss this place.
In time, I will build
An Imperium of such grandeur and magnificence that this will seem like a pauper's hovel. Now, let us be on our way.
They burned the church to the ground. It's fucking sad.
That seems like just too tragic. You would think you'd turn into a museum or something, just preserving the last building.
I would have. That kind of makes sense, but you know what's sad about this whole the whole thing, right? It turns out there are real gods, chaos gods, and they are fickle as fuck, and they hate each other, and they hate each other. And they will basically use mankind for their fuels, to fuel their existence essentially. And whether it's the junkie god Slanesh or the fucking war god fucking Korn, or the fucking bird fucking Titsitch, I think his name is Zinch, or the fucking Nurgle, who I swear to you is Anthony Fauci in disguise. Playing.
How can you do this? You say you stand for reason and the advancement of understanding, but here you are destroying a repository of knowledge.
Some things are best forgotten.
And I hope you have foreseen the consequences of a world bereft of religion.
I have. It is my dream. An imperium of man that exists without recourse to gods and the supernatural. A united galaxy with Terra at its heart.
A united galaxy?
Indeed. Soon enough, unity will be achieved on Terra. It is time to reclaim humanity's lost empire among the stars.
With you at its head, I presume.
Of course.
No. Absolutely not. Frickin' Neil deGrasse Tyson will be at the head of that shit. If he's gonna have an empire behind the stars that's atheist and secular, it'd be fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Absolutely not. I'd sooner have the God Emperor.
Ugh. Okay.
Not that I would go with that either, because God has to, I believe that the existence of God is a rational necessity. So this is an exercise of utility. I don't know what this God Emperor is, but he's not a god.
Well, he's not a god, but he's basically, like he said, he's an Ubermensch.
Mm-hmm.
And keep playing it.
Such grand scale can be achieved without a singular vision at its heart. Least of all, the reconquest of the galaxy. There is a place for you at my side, Uriah. You are noble and your heart is true. We have need of iterators who would spread my imperial truth across the stars to all those planets without guidance.
I can submit to no imperial truth. My entire life has been altered by, at best, a misunderstanding. At worst, my life has been spent following a lie. But you know what? It doesn't matter that my life has been one massive falsehood. I came here with my heart open and emptied by grief. The spirit of my God had entered my soul and filled me with love. My devotion was my salvation, and I have spread a doctrine of love and forgiveness. No amount of words and tricks may change that. Even now, despite this revelation, my heart is filled with love. There is no resentment in my heart. What makes faith so powerful, Emperor, is that it requires no proof. Belief is enough.
I feared such a thing. I wish you would join my great crusade, Uriah. Soon I shall expand my imperium to the furthest corners of the galaxy, with all my sons beside me. I need men.
Except your favorite one, of course. Didn't see that one coming.
Yep. No, well, here's the thing. Just keep playing it, because it's interesting, because he actually calls out, says, yeah, someone will replace you. Someone will replace it. This is something that is necessary. It's part of the human condition.
And like you make a virtue of commitment and purity.
Did you not just speak to me of the horror of the Crusades? And what evil men do in the name of purity? You are no better than the holy men you were telling me about.
The difference is that I know I am right, Uriah.
Spoken like a true autocrat.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, like, yeah, you're so, yeah, God Emperor, I don't care what you call yourself, you're so full of it.
Yep.
You misunderstand, Uriah. I have seen the narrow path that humanity must walk to survive. This is how we must begin.
It is a dangerous road you travel. To deny humanity a thing will only make them crave it more. I see no reality in which your goals do not lead us to disaster and ruin. Beware your subjects do not begin to see you as a god. I truly hope, in the name of all that is divine, you are right. But I dread the future you forge.
I wish only the best for my people.
I believe you, Apocalypsis. But I cannot be a part of it.
And he sacrifices himself. He walks in, and the plot point with the watch is that he believed that the watch was going to start ticking once things start happening that are bad. And it's sort of like a doomsday clock, if you will. Like, you know, the doomsday clock where it's like once it strikes 12, it's like the end of the world. Same concept. Yeah. And he goes away and he walks in. He doesn't accept the God Emperor. He just says, fuck you, I'm out. It's sad. It's a sad fucking story, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And you and I have talked about the fucking Chaos Gods before. We've talked about fuck, the Walrus literally wants to take over Jerusalem and make it a Russian city. What the fuck? And what's even funnier is, I swear to you, if I actually get to meet Dawkins, I'm going to tell him about Dickin. I'm going to show him and say, do you really think this is what's going to end well? Do you really think this is going to be... I'm going to fucking do it, because that's sort of what... I don't know where it is, but I think we're like in Warhammer 2... Not Warhammer 40k, but Warhammer 2k, if that makes any sense. Yeah. I think that's where we're... What?
It won't,
Amen?
Because no, it won't, because... Yeah, there's one thing, like, there's actually this image of Davos and the World Economic Forum, and there's a whole panel of religious leaders there, and one of the leaders of the Saddleback Church, Rick Warren, he makes the obvious point. The future is not going to become less religious, it's going to become more so. That, unfortunately, what he doesn't realize, that more religious part will be from Muslims. Or Gnostics. The future is not atheist, the future is not secular, the future is religion, and the question is how that's going to work.
Yep. And I think Christianity will be... I'll just say it. Islam's not going to last.
I guess it's... Well, actually, it's wrong to say that the future is religion, because the truth is religion's not going anywhere. It's always going to be there, and the question is how we understand it, how it applies. And trying to say, oh, we're just going to get rid of it. No, you won't. Good luck. The only way you can get rid of religion is by getting rid of religious people, and that's... Well, that's genocide. Unless you want to go commit genocide, religion isn't going anywhere.
Yeah. Absolutely. I fundamentally agree with you on that. But I don't know. It's worth a read. I'd highly recommend it. Or not even worth a watch, I'd say. But yeah, I'm gonna get to bed early tonight.
All right.
Go on.
The last comment.
Sequentialist to be of any real use. Ali explains that without religion, she felt that her life had lost purpose, and so to give herself guidance and help bolster the West, she has embraced Christianity. But can we actually say that this is indicative of sincere belief? I'm afraid that I think it's not.
Maybe not, but it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, and at the same time, again, there are religions out there that the atheists will never talk about. I've talked about how Dianic Wicca is basically Marxist feminism with a fucking coat of theological paint on it. Just so that way it could get fucking tax write-offs and they can take Halloween off as a fucking holiday. I've talked about how certain, like Islam, I've talked about, Satanism, how it's basically a fucking religion for just to subvert what it does. And the sad part here is Christianity is the only thing that's going to stand up against it. Islam can't stand up against it because Islam is constantly fighting everybody, including itself. Mm-hmm. The one benefit that Islam has is that it has the other. The moment that there is no other, the moment they keep saying that once everybody is a Muslim, the world will be at peace. No, that won't happen. What will happen here is that you'll have people who will weaponize the hadiths and the sunnahs to try to get another guy's wife or try to get money out of someone, and there'll just be a constant shit testing all the time. So the best thing you could do with Islam is quarantine it. Like, literally algorithmically discriminate against it. And that's the best thing you could do, because eventually they'll fucking turn on each other. That's what they do. They're like the left. They eat their wounded. Yeah.
It's a step in the right direction. At the end of the Warhammer story of the Last Church, the Emperor doesn't feel any kind of Hitchin-esque moment of hesitation or suffer a pang of regret. He brings out the last priest as the church is burned down. Watching the flames engulf the last religion of the human race, the priest, with tears in his eyes, throws himself on the pyre. If you're wondering, I am myself still an atheist, but maybe somewhat regretfully. I think that any religious profession should be underpinned by a sincere conviction, and not a utilitarian calculus. I am not a Christian, but I am a supporter of Christianity, which is why we host Calvin Robinson's Common Sense Crusade on loadseize.com. If you'd like to support our work, please do go over and sign up. Check out our content, and if you'd like to come and hang out with me on Discord, you can access that through my subscribe star.
It ends on an ad.
Fucking, I don't like them. I don't trust that shit. Not one bit. I don't like Sargon, and not nearly as much as I used to.
And unfortunately for us, the only great alternative are people trying to embrace like theonomy or Christian nationalism, which is not beneficial to anyone.
Yeah, like I truly believe that. I truly do believe that there will be a Christian revival coming here soon. I do believe that because nobody wants Islam. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it. Even the Muslims don't want it. Deep down, they hate it.
A lot of deconversions happening because they found out, wait, Islam doesn't have a history. Like, what do you mean it doesn't have a history? For the same reason Mormon doesn't have a history, because it literally doesn't exist.
Yep. It's all made up. It's all in their head. But anyhow, any final thoughts, Luke?
Can't you climb out? If I could climb out, I wouldn't be yelling help now, would I? Well, you could have at least yelled, help, I'm trapped in a sewer. What would that have done? Saved me a trip.
What the Oof. I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, be good to one another. Take care of one another. Remember, saving the West is a side quest. This is the DeJourne